Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Be Productive, hosted by business strategist and productivity expert Clara Capano. Join us to discuss the most critical issues affecting our businesses with a fresh, practical, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Be Productive starts right now.
Welcome to Be Productive. I'm your host, Clara Capano. One of the things that I love so much about being able to host the show is the ability to learn from others. You know, success leaves clues. And if we want to have success, if we want to have those results that we're dreaming of, let's learn from other industry experts. Today, our guests are going to talk about some critical things that we need to hone in and really pay attention to. We're going to talk about, taking care of our people, taking care of our team, and how we can create safety in the workplace, both from a physical as well as a mental aspect. We have to take care of our team. They are everything to us. We're going to talk about, again, quality communication and how we can, again, really get some strong strategies as leaders and business owners. We're going to talk about the importance of reviews, how on a quarterly basis and even on a weekly basis, we're going to have two of our experts talking to us about the importance of these quarterly reviews and these weekly reviews so that we can make adjustments and those pivots and adaptions along the way, because sometimes it's in those small little nuances that when we can adjust them, we can unlock greatness. So make sure you're ready to take some notes because we are going to help you be productive. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to start the conversations. Welcome back to Be Productive. I'm your host, Clara Capano. Have you ever seen those signs in a company where they talk about X amount of days that are injury-free? Safety in the workplace is critical to productivity. The more that we can put policies in place to help our workplace, our employees, and the overall health of our organizations stay at their top level, that's going to affect everything in our levels of purpose, productivity, and even the bottom line. So we are talking about safety orientations. We're talking about guidelines to help keep everybody safe and how watching those are really going to impact us as leaders and as business owners. And to help me with this discussion, I have my friend, Chase Traffica, joining me, and he is with Turner Insurance and Policies. So Chase, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Claire. It's great to be on.
You bet. So we're talking about safety, especially when we get into the onboarding process and making sure that this is a big part of the education that we're doing long-term in our companies. So why are safety orientations crucial when we are onboarding new employees to our organization?
Yeah, so I think there are a few key points here when we're onboarding employees to our organization. One, and from my standpoint as an insurance professional, you want to make sure these people continue your safety program and your risk management program in a way that keeps your cost of insurance mitigated. So that's a big factor. I think sometimes companies see safety and risk management as a box to check instead of it being something they should take very seriously. There have been multiple studies that show the safer you are, the less accidents you have, the more your bottom line increases and the better off you are financially, not just in your insurance premium, but also throughout efficiency and growth. So I think safety onboarding needs to be the first thing taught to a new employee.
Yeah. So is this something that you and your company help them with in asking the questions and setting up the right checklist so they have the right type of onboarding safety measures in place?
Yeah, so we have programs for multiple industries, for businesses in those industries to onboard employees. It really is a open and use program. The companies don't really have to do anything. They've all been checked off by our attorneys. They have all the documentation and forms that need to be signed by the employees, as well as the videos, coverages, and documentation needed. So we are able to provide everything needed for the onboarding process. And the more important it is to the business owner, the more important it's going to be to that employee.
Absolutely. And also to the end user too, because as a consumer, knowing that I'm working with a company that takes such pride and is proactive in ensuring the safety of the employees, that just shows me a higher level of integrity, even in working with that company. So I think it's really important. And we talk about the onboarding process, but what about ongoing? What are some other things that companies can effectively do to implement ongoing training as far as it comes to the safety of the company?
Right. I like to say, if you don't use it, you lose it is a very pertinent term in this industry and in every small business. So if you aren't constantly reminding the employees, hey, this is our process, this is our protocol, this is how we stay safe, not only for the individual, but for the entire workforce. Because a lot of times what happens, accidents aren't the person who made the mistake gets hurt. It is the people around the person making the mistake. So I think the more we stay in front of our employees, the better off we are. And you can do that with monthly, quarterly, semi-annual meetings of different sizes. These don't have to be boring, mundane meetings. They can, you can provide lunch, you can provide an outing, anything to make it more than just a safety meeting, but really drive home the points you have for your risk management process.
Yeah. I look at this as also, sharpening our sword. When we talk with a lot of sales professionals and leaders, we're like, you've got to practice your skill sets. Well, working the equipment is part of the skill set. So again, I love how you talk about that. These are really important, and, bringing them in on a regular basis, whether that's monthly or quarterly, to keep everybody, aware, because like you said, we don't want them to happen, meaning that if we do our job, the issues shouldn't happen. But if they don't happen frequently, we also may not be prepared for them. So we've got to maintain doing that. So I think that's a really critical piece, and I appreciate you bringing that in. Talk to me about, the insurance side of this, and what is the role that insurance plays in encouraging more workplace safety?
Right. So I think what we try to emphasize, and what more insurance carriers and brokers should emphasize, is insurance should not be seen as something that is there for when the bad things happen. If your broker is not consistently giving you tools to help mitigate bad things from happening, that question needs to be asked of what can we do to do a prehab instead of a rehab on risk management and safety. So the more we can prevent before it happens, the better off we are, instead of trying to make it better after it happens.
Exactly. And here at Be Productive, we are all about doing these things on the front end to save us time and money on the back end. So tell us a little bit about your company, Turner Insurances. How long have they been around? What markets do they represent, so that when people look into them, they know how they can best support them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been around for a little over 90 years. We just had our 90th anniversary. We work with construction and transportation mostly, but we also do bonding for different industries, and we have the ability to go throughout multiple industries and cover those. And we really focus on changing the mindset of your insurance program from a liability on your balance sheet to turning it into an asset that you can use and help your bottom line.
I love that. Let's turn those liabilities into assets. And you know what? Our employees are our greatest assets. I know you've been doing leadership consulting for many years, and I'm sure, Chase, that this is something that you talk about with your other clients as well. When you take care of the employees can work at a more optimal level, therefore taking care of the entire organization. So, Chase, where's the best place for people to reach out and find you should they have any questions or want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to turnerfirst.com or trafficaconsulting.com. Both those places, or LinkedIn, you'll be able to find us and what we do and how we can help you guys.
Beautiful. All right, everyone, you heard it here. Let's make sure that we are working safe. The more proactive we can be on the front end to make sure that all of our systems are in place, that is going to save us time, and it's going to turn those liabilities into strong assets long term. So stay tuned. We'll be right back for more Be Productive. Hi, and welcome back to Be Productive. I am your host, Clara Capano. When people are looking to hire someone to represent them, one of the number one skills that they are looking for is a strong negotiator. What we know is being able to show people and to demonstrate our ability to protect them and to protect their interests, at the same time to deliver value. This is a skill set that is really going to help all of us to achieve our goals, to get the results we want, and also to make sure that we are staying productive in everything we do. Now, negotiation and being persuasive is a skill set. So to help us unbox some of the key components in developing this skill set is my friend Todd Wall. Todd, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Clara, great to be here.
Yes. You and I always have these great conversations around communications. And what we're going to talk about today is the power behind negotiations. Negotiations is an amazing way to demonstrate our value, to have deeper connections, as well as to sell some of our products. And at the end of the day, many of us are looking to do more of that. So what are some of the key communication strategies that business owners and leaders need to think about when it comes to being a strong negotiator?
Well, first is understanding the negotiation ultimately is leadership. I'm wanting to lead this conversation to the outcome that I'm actually looking for. So it begins with one, understanding that it's leadership, but two, what is that outcome that I'm actually looking for?
Mm-hmm.
What's my ideal outcome? And then what's the outcome that I would actually accept? It's actually, that's an okay outcome too. So I know a range that it's okay for me that becomes the target that I'm leading towards. It becomes my heaven island versus a negative outcome. What's at stake would be my hell island. These are the circumstances that I will not accept, that I can't have, that become detrimental to me. I need clarity first and foremost on what is my ideal outcome and then what's the negative outcome that I just cannot accept.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's human connection and building trust through listening, through engaging, and actually having an interaction dialogue back and forth. And when someone gives makes their offer or whatever it may be, you're transparent and you say, yeah, but here's how that would affect me negatively. And again, here's where I'm trying to get. So you create this partnership for how can we get through this maze together.
Yes. And you hit on two key things that I'm hoping that the viewers have really listened to. One is this idea of preparation. Do not go into any sort of interaction blind. Taking time to, again, assess what would my dream result be, and also, again, maybe what is my walk away point, because that's going to get you in the right mindset, of being able to be prepared. So a lot of the times, and I know that I think it's Cialdini, wrote a great book called Persuasion. And he said one of the keys to persuasion is the pregame of it, which is the prep work for it, which is, what I thought of when you said that. The second thing is, again, the idea of we're in this together. The collaborative method always works better. It works about 70 times, better than just being combative. So being able to, again, take time and, like you say, talk it out and really connect with the other person, that's another great way to, again, bring in some of the strategies that we're working on. Now, as we're doing this, skill sets, we got to practice them. So what are some of the best ways that we can practice and turn these skill sets really into stronger, I'll call them advocates for us, and be able to really strengthen our confidence in the area of negotiations?
I think it's just being mindful of the practice. So if you understand that the core is knowing what you want and what you don't want, and then it's building a trusting, collaborative communication model. You can practice that when you go to the grocery store. You can practice that when someone comes and offers to mow your lawn. You can practice that with your spouse, with your children. It's understanding what's the ideal outcome, what's the negative outcome you don't want, And then understand within each one of those dialogues, it's always a collaborative process of we're moving in a direction together. How do we get to the best outcome together?
Exactly. And I love the idea that you said, start small, start just on the little things. It can even be, at a restaurant, kind of negotiating on, what does it come with? Can I get this instead of that? Just little things that we do every day and building those skill sets, because then it builds our confidence for when we have to be able to work with all of our clients. Now, one of the things I really want to talk about, because I think that this is really important. There is something out there called emotional intelligence. Some people refer to it as EQ. How important do you think having high emotional intelligence is as far as it connects with our ability to persuade and be a strong negotiator?
I think it's absolutely vital, because the flip side of this collaborative model is the person who tries to negotiate with a hammer, and they may hammer that nail in, but they're never going to come back to that relationship again. If they ever tried to come back to that relationship again, that relationship's done. It's over. It's finished. They have no empathy in relation to that other person. Donald Miller in Story Brand, I love referring to his material, but he says in this art of persuasion, he says, there's actually an 80-20 rule involved with this. And he said, people often think they need to be 80%, show their credibility, show their authority, and come with strength. But he said, it's actually the flip side. It's 80% empathy and 20% your credibility. And so as we relate one human authentically to another human, you're going to find the floodgates will actually open. You'll find that people go, hey, this time I'm going to give you a little bit extra. Hey, it's not on the menu, but for you, I really like you. I'm going to give you that thing. There's things you can force your way through a door, but then you can also finesse your way through a door as well. And emotional intelligence is a way of finessing your way through a door.
Yeah. So many times people just want to be heard. They just want to be acknowledged for what they're doing. And I found the same thing, that sometimes if you can, again, just give them that genuine connection, and again, bring in that concept of humanity in your interactions and recognize them and acknowledge them. There's almost always a way for us to come together. And I see it a lot when I travel at the airport. You can just see the people that are just pushing through to get something and they really don't go anywhere, versus the one that, again, take a little bit more time, are a little softer, acknowledge the people for what they're doing. And I think that, that emotional intelligence is such a key indicator to success. And it's something that all of us need to practice a little bit more of.
Absolutely. I mean, we are all in this moment together. And I think that's a reality we must embrace.
Yep. And that's been sort of the theme of today. Even though we're negotiating, it's not about what I want. It's about how can we make this, positive for all of us and leave this interaction knowing that we all took away something positive. Now, Todd, you've been in this realm for 30 years. And one of the things that you're getting ready to do is to use your area of expertise in communications. And you're going to be launching your own show here on Now Media. So tell us briefly about your new show.
I would love it. I'm super excited about it. It's called Communication Breakthrough, because intentional communication leads to the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your personal life and ultimately your business. So intentional action creates intentional results, and the same is true with communication.
Love it. Well, I can't wait to see the show. I know it's going to be a hit, and you're going to have so many followers for that one as well. So for those of you that are following, I hope you took good notes on this one, because again, negotiations, the ability to persuade, it is so key. It is not about trying to trick people. It's not about trying to force them into doing something that they don't. It's the key of let's bring humanity into it. Let's prepare ourselves before the interaction so that we can really get clear on what it is our desired outcome would be. Let's listen. Let's engage in some of the active listening that we've talked about. And again, let's make sure that we are looking for a collaborative approach and something where we can all bring in our level of empathy and really connect. Because when you are strong in these areas, not only will you achieve your goals, but you're going to help others achieve their goals. And that's how we're all going to live and be more productive in every aspect of our lives. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to Be Productive. I am your host, Clara Capano, and I have a question for you. Is your organization protected with cybersecurity systems? I certainly hope you are, but to help us and to help you, I have my friend and expert in this field, Greg Schaffer, here to talk with us about the importance of having quarterly governance committee meetings. You know, cybersecurity is something that is out there. It's been around for many decades, and it's something we need to pay attention to. So, Greg, so excited to have you here with us today.
Great to be back.
You know, you are such a wealth of knowledge in this area, and I know that you've been doing this for over 30 years. So I really hope that our viewers and our listeners are going to perk up, because you are sharing information that is something that all of us need, regardless of the size of our organization. So talking about these governance committees, talk to us really first about what is the purpose of having a quarterly governance committee as far as it relates to our security and the information security we have.
So one of the most important aspects of any security program is what we refer to as governance. And governance is simply, how are you going to manage the program? How are you going to lay out your policies, your procedures? How are you going to look at risk and understand risk? How are you going to then reach compliance in certain areas? How are you going to implement controls and all of that? But without some sort of governance, bringing everything together, you're really not being as effective as you can. And with the quarterly governance committees, they're basically comprised of folks from all business units in an organization, from the C-suite on down, whichever business units are the most important. And the reason for that is that the reason for these committee meetings, the purpose, is communication. That's the main purpose. Now, there's also some other ancillary purposes with regards to audits and being able to show that you're doing communication by taking proper minutes. But the main purpose is communication. And when I mean by communication, it's not just one direction, it's in both directions. So from one direction, it's imperative that the security leader, whether it be a CISO or a virtual CISO, which is what we do, that they can communicate to the C-suite and the board of directors enough information so that then the C-suite and the board of directors can make risk-informed decisions, because ultimately they own the risk. They have to be able to mitigate the risk, and there are certain ways to mitigate the risk. You can mitigate the risk by avoiding it or transferring it, like with insurance, or controlling it with controls, or you can accept it, which is a proper strategy. But the point being is that you can't accept the risk if you don't have that understanding. So a quarterly governance committee usually consists of those leaders, topics relevant to the information security environment of the business, major projects that are going on, what their strategic plans are going forward. And then the other communication is based on that, because the CISO, the information security officer, the virtual information security officer, needs to understand what initiatives are going on within the organization. So when all is said and done, the purpose is communication.
Yeah. You know, communication is critical for organizations. And in my background of working with organizational leaders, you know, being able to have these types of meetings, and I love how you're talking quarterly, because that gives you that 90 days. It really gives you some real information to dive into and to analyze. It gives you enough, you know, every week, every month. Sometimes that 90-day period is really what you need. And I love that you're talking about including people at different levels, all the way from the top C-suite all the way down, and having those open dialogues. When we get this together, you know, like you said, you're going to look at all different angles. When you start to gather this information together on a quarterly basis, how are you finding that these committees are then using this information to help the organization make better, more well-informed decisions, especially as it comes into their risk assessment?
Well, it all gets down to a couple of things. The first thing is that not everybody is a subject matter expert in everything. So I'm not a finance subject matter expert. I can do a little bit, but you probably don't want me doing your taxes. Somebody in legal isn't an information security expert. Somebody in mortgage, like in banking, for example, won't be an IT expert. And it's very hard to get these people all together in one place and focus for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours on information security. And by getting everybody together, then you can start having those free-flowing discussions. If you just do it via email or Slack or something like that, you're not going to get the real full flavor. You're not going to have that brainstorming. You're not going to have that understanding of the risk in different environments without bringing the people together and talking. I'm a big proponent of actually meeting face to face with these as well too. I understand in the post-COVID era, there's a lot, we're still using Zoom and other platforms a lot to do those sorts of things, but sometimes getting together face to face for these meetings is important. And again, it's very tough to get all these folks together in one room. So you get all the subject matter experts together, you talk risk, information security risk up and down the chain, and how it relates with the other risk in the organization, because really, that's how businesses make money. They take risks, and information security needs to be a part of that.
Yeah. So you talk about these ideas. One, they're only quarterly, but you talk about the real situation of especially getting everybody in the room. What are some of the challenges in not just establishing and creating these, but also maintaining them so that they are still valuable in getting the information and the results that an organization is looking for?
Well, there's a component of burnout with regards to all of the cyber threats that have happened out there. I get burned out from it. It's like sometimes people ask me, have you heard about the latest threat? And I'm like, which one? Like, I don't know. I don't keep up with them sometimes because it's like they're always coming and you get that burnout, and that in itself becomes a risk. So what ends up happening is that sometimes business leaders, they become more disengaged from the process. That's a big challenge with regards to establishing and maintaining these committees. And what I mean by disengaged, they realize, well, okay, as far as to meet compliance with some standards, like a lot of those frameworks and standards and regulations, they require that you do this. It's like, okay, let's just do the meeting, check the box, and we're done. And checking the box is compliant, but is not security. That's a problem there too. So how do you engage them? Again, this gets down to making it interesting, integrating security with the business. I've preached that integration of security for the business forever, it seems like, and it never gets old, because the worst thing that a security professional can do is just come in and start speaking security and be like the office of no. It's if you can show that you're trying to help move the business forward, then that's going to help engage them. Now, the other aspect, the other problem sometimes is getting involvement from all the business units. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't really need to be there. And you sometimes got to get around that and say, no, you really do, because this affects the entire organization. So everyone or of the C-suite, including like folks in marketing, because that's huge. You have a data breach, for example, how are you going to communicate it, and how you do communicate it is one of the most essential things as to how you survive that breach. So a lot of challenges involved, but the payback is worth it.
Absolutely. So many really valuable nuggets in this discussion. Now, I know that you have a book that has a lot of value to it. So tell us a little bit about that.
So information security for small and mid-sized businesses, we're working on the 3rd edition right now. But basically this book, as it is the 2nd edition right now, is a culmination of a lot of the questions that people have asked us over the years working with small and mid-sized businesses. Simple questions. It's not technical at all. It's more about some of the things we've talked about. What are frameworks? Why do you need a governance? There's a whole section on governance in here. And the good thing about it is that anybody can get a free copy of the 2nd edition. All they need to do is go out to our website. That's vcisoservices.com, and you can click and download for the price of an email address. You can click and download an ebook version of it. Now, the 3rd edition hopefully will be out, thinking later in the summertime, the way things are going right now, knock on wood.
Perfect. And I value what you're doing so much, and I can really appreciate and I honor you and your company because you're giving all these resources. In addition to the book, I know that you have a blog on your website, all with the intent of, again, educating and informing business owners so that we can work smarter. And, that sings to my heart because I'm all about, working at the highest level, being productive, and at the heart of all of that are these things that you're talking about, which is communication, collaborating with your team, and again, looking at the overall way that we show up. So Greg, thank you again for being with us today. And for all of you watching, go to the website, get that book, and get your committees together. Once a quarter is all you need, but let's make sure that everyone on the team is having a voice and we are all working together to protect the interest of the organization. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. I'm your host, Clara Capano, and we are ready to start talking about goal setting. Regardless of where you are in your business, regardless of what time of the year it is, you need to make sure that you are setting goals and staying connected with them, because we want you to be able to achieve what it is you're hoping to achieve. So to help me with this conversation and to bring in some streamlining of it, I'm bringing in business growth strategist, Mark Wetzig. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi, Clara. Good to see you again.
You as well. You know, we've had you on the show several times, and you are just a wealth of knowledge. And being a strategist in this area of business growth, goal setting is at the heart of it. So the first question I want to ask you is all about realistic and attainable goals, because some people have the mindset of shoot for the moon, and others, say that if it's not realistic, you might fizzle out. So how do you work with your clients on helping them set realistic and achievable goals, but at the same time pushing themselves?
One of the things that I've found time and again, especially with the smaller business owners, is they don't really understand goal setting. They'll put a number to it. I want to make, an additional $100,000 this year. Well, that's not really a goal. That is a measurement of a bigger goal. So one of what I challenge them with is, if you achieve that goal, what will it do for you? So it's kind of a linked thought, because business is a means to an end. It's a means to an end for clients. It's a means to an end for an owner. It's a means to an end for an employee. So when you set these goals, often we stop at a static goal, whether it's financial or growth-wise or personnel-wise, whatever it might be. And then we stop there. And that's leaving the story unfinished. So what we want to understand is, what is the evidence? First of all, what would the evidence be that you've reached that goal? Easiest to do financially. But then what is the impact of reaching that goal? What is it doing for you, for your company, for your clients, for you personally, for your lifestyle? Most people got into business, to create, as an owner, to create a lifestyle. So how is it supporting that lifestyle? And, it's great to have more money. It's great to have more time. What are you going to do with it? And so that answers the question of, how do they really hone in on goal setting, is that most people only kind of create half the story with traditional goal setting processes.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk about, again, the achievement and the accountability, to help us achieve these goals. Now, I'm a coach, you're a coach, we're both strategists. I also have coaches to help me achieve my goals, but I would love to hear from you. What do you find as the major, game changer in the role of a business coach or strategist in helping owners, entrepreneurs achieve their goals and get to the finish line?
I'd say the biggest value I have is, and I guess one thing that I do is that I provide the structure and the format and the questions, but the owner does a lot of the work. It's their story, it's their business, it's their company, it's their money. So, really, what are you doing to impact your growth? And again, back to what is the evidence? What is the impact? So how do you know that you're tracking the way that you want to achieve, the things that you want to achieve and the way you want to achieve them? Because there's a certain process and style, depending on the owner, that you want to respect. So really become more of an advocate for them. And it is a coach, and sometimes there are hard discussions, but that's part of being the coach is and I set that up front, is there's a challenge. I want to be able to challenge it. I mean, it happens all the time in the corporate world. It's a process called, the challenge method, where you're challenging that growth, because if you don't ask the right questions and look for the right answers, the market probably will do the asking for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a good coach can make all the difference in being able to help you achieve your goals. And like you said, they do the work, but sometimes we provide that guidance, a sounding board to them, and sometimes just help them, again, get out of their own way so that they really, can move forward with the intention. In doing this, can you provide maybe some examples of goals that you've helped some of your clients achieve?
Well, there's one that really jumps to mind that happened recently. It's a couple up in Toronto. They had a small, well, actually a fairly decent sized retail and wholesale bakery, and they wanted to sell it. And that's a good part of the business that I work with are people that are looking to sell, and not immediately, but typically somewhere between, say, 18 and 36 months out. But the finances aren't there, their systems and processes aren't there. There's not a saleable company. That's the case, with these folks, is that they'd struggled through COVID. They were really strapped to the business to survive through COVID, which they did. And they had thoughts of selling the business, and their business broker did not give them the news they wanted. He said, it's, with where you are, where your numbers are, the way your business is set up, it's just there's not a real market for you, and if there is, it's not going to be near the price that you think that you deserve. So we decided to focus on 4 different areas of the business. We looked at, as I recall, pricing and increased their pricing. We improved their marketing message, which didn't need a lot of work, but a little tweak made a huge difference. We reactivated their database so that that marketing message then went out to existing customers who already knew who these folks were. And then we let that ride, and we let that kind of, marinate in their business here for 6 to 8 weeks. And by about the 4th month, they were seeing numbers that they'd never seen before, at margins that they had never seen before, much more engagement with their clients. We had tightened up some of their processes and documented them. Went back to the broker, and actually 2 of their customers ended up bidding on this business. And the end result was they got about $125,000 more for the business than they thought they were going to. And this goes back to some other things we've talked about, goal setting. What did it do for them? Well, it allowed them to pay off some final debts ahead of time from the business, which they really valued doing that. And then it allowed them to go and visit their daughter, who was living over in London, who they hadn't seen for a few years because they were strapped to the business during COVID. So, it affected them financially and personally by being able to achieve this. But it was a very systematic, process that actually occurred on a fairly short timeline. But given that given those restrictions, we focused on what we felt were going to be the 3 to 4 different areas that were really going to make that the most impact, and they did. So it really changed them, and it allowed them to move on with the next phase in their life.
Beautiful. Again, changing lives, have an impact. That's what we do. So, having, again, that coach, that strategist, it really can help you just get to that next level by, being challenged, by having the right questions. And again, I invest, in coaches in every aspects of my business, and they just have made huge differences. So if someone is looking for a coach and maybe they want to, look into hiring you, Mark, what's the best way that people can find you?
So my website is www.reignitegrowthcoach.com. My email is markw@reignitegrowthcoach.com. And then my cell and text number is 303-921-3440.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. Well, set those goals. It is so important. Set the goals, Get clear on the strategy. I always say fall in love with the goal, but work that strategy and get somebody to help hold you accountable. Because when you do these things, you're going to be able to achieve all of the greatness that you want in both your life and your business. So stay tuned. We'll be back for more of our discussion on Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. You know, as I'm going through the contributors' messages today, you know, the one thing that really stands out is what really matters. And as business owners and leaders, we have to pay attention to these things. And what really matters in running a successful and a productive business, our people matter. So what is it that we're doing to take care of our people? You know, our messaging matters. So what are we doing to communicate with purpose and intention and also value? And then also our numbers matter. We've got to be paying attention to those numbers, not just at the end of the year, not just midway through the year, but continually through the year. Because when we bring these different areas together, our people, our communication, and our numbers, when we pay attention to the things that really matter, those are the things that are going to take care of the bottom line. So I'm Clara Capano. I'm your host. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of Be Productive.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.